Hey guys, Dave Barkstedt here with Gymshorts CEO, and I have an amazing guest on today, Anthony Lolli. He's the founder and CEO of Rapid Realty. They are the fastest growing real estate company in America, according to Inc. magazine. Anthony, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So I definitely want to cover with the audience here more about Rapid Realty, but I really want to get into your story. In my eyes, it's truly the American success story that Americans are all about. So I want to really dive into that because I really feel like your story can share some great insight to other entrepreneurs trying to make it just like you made it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about where you grew up, what your childhood was like, the occupations of your parents, and more specifically, what you wanted to be when you grew up, essentially.
Well, it's interesting, I come from humble beginnings. My mother was an immigrant from Ecuador who came to this country with $40 in her pocket, 20 of which she had to give to the customs person to stamp her visa. She knew no one, no friends, no family, and did what any typical immigrant from South America does. She lived in an abandoned building and worked in sweatshops for the first couple of weeks until she actually got something stable and found a place to live with some friends that she made at the sweatshop. And then eventually she got her cosmopolitan license and then eventually became a home attendant. My father was a World War II veteran, became a school teacher, taught guitar lessons when that was hot in the Elvis Presley day when everybody wanted to learn guitar. And then he eventually became an insurance broker and then a street entertainer doing photo with parrot. He would, when he met my mom, and being that my mom's from Ecuador, he went to visit her in Ecuador. They visited the jungles of Puyo in Ecuador, and he fell in love with this species, which was a blue and gold macaw, and brought it back to the States and would put the bird on your shoulder and with a Polaroid camera take your picture of couples in Little Italy and in the seaport in downtown Manhattan and charge people $3 to $5 for a nice Polaroid picture of the bird on their shoulder to capture that moment.
That's a fantastic story. I mean, talk about coming to America to make things happen.
Yeah.
And where'd you grow up? You grew up in Brooklyn?
Well, I grew up in Brooklyn Heights. Now it's the Beverly Hills of Brooklyn, but when I was there, it was a pretty crummy neighborhood. It really had a lot of misfits running around there. We were actually living in a rent-controlled apartment. So it was kind of like gentrifying itself into becoming a really nice neighborhood. So there were some brownstones. There were some people that were well-to-do that lived in the neighborhood. So my parents were very strategic in aligning me with successful people, even though we really couldn't afford to keep up with the Joneses. At least we were in an apartment, that was rent-controlled and pretty cheap.
So growing up in Brooklyn Heights, now the Beverly Hills, which it definitely is, Beverly Hills of Brooklyn. Do you remember any particular happy, funny, sad, or instructive lessons you learned as a kid? And back to, did any of those lessons kind of put you in a direction to say, this is what I want to do when I grow up?
There's a popular movie called The Sixth Sense with Bruce Willis. And it's real interesting how at the end of the movie he realized that he was actually dead and everything started making sense to him. And I had one of those moments when I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I talk about this often. I really wanted to buy this waterproof watch. I wanted my mom to buy it for me. She would go to Saks Fifth Avenue and Macy's and all these high-end retail stores and just try on clothes and try on perfume, but never walk out of the store buying anything. She would just stand in front of the mirror and try on all these clothes. And one day we walked past this waterproof watch that was in the display. It was $12 at the time. I kept begging her and begging her. She kept turning me down until one day I threw a fit. And she looked at me with tears in her eyes and she said, Anthony, we can't afford it. And everything started coming together. Everything where, when I would stay over my friends' homes or I would go visit them and how their living situation was better than my living situation. They had a car, we didn't. All sorts of things started making sense. And then I made a promise to my mom. I said, Ma, one day we're going to be so rich that I'm going to buy you a white limousine with a chauffeur and I'm going to buy you a white mansion, and we can go out to the best restaurants, and you can go shopping all day long, and you won't have to worry about money again. But and one thing I did know at that time, and is that I was rich in love and support.
It's safe to say that that experience right there, that always resonated with you, that drove you, I guess, from
Yes.
that moment on.
Well, it did. It made an impact that stayed buried in my brain for quite a while. And it wasn't until I was about 16 or 17 that I had a second impact. You know, I made that promise to my mom, but I was being a teenager like anyone else. And my dad was still doing the street entertainer thing. We still were living in humble beginnings. And I was still becoming a man, so to speak. So when I would go out on dates, I would go to Little Italy, where my dad would walk up and down Mulberry Street and, you know, solicit all the people at the restaurants, at the sidewalk tables, and he would do that. And I noticed something weird. I'm there one day with a girlfriend, and I'm watching my dad through the corner of their eye, and then I'm watching people pulling the bird's tail, the bird's crapping on my dad's shoulder, people are pointing and laughing. It was weird, and I said, man, you know, I'm over here having a good time, and my dad's like, you know, busting his butt, trying to make ends meet to support the family. I said, you know, I got to really be a man and step up to the plate and keep the promise I made to my mom. And my dad was always older, so I said, you know, I got to be the head of the house and take care of my parents. So it was that second aha moment that kind of impacted me and made me want to jump into doing something with my life.
So did you, as a teenager, did you have like odd jobs, or
Yeah, I was a bike messenger. I worked at Cohn's Fashion Optical for a little while. I worked as a mailroom clerk for a little bit. I did computer inventory stuff. Then I worked for my cousin doing alarm installations for some celebrities and Blockbuster Video and doing commercial alarm work. And it wasn't until I was in Kingsborough Community College trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life that my friend's father, who was a stay-at-home dad for like 20 years, he got his real estate license and he started doing well with it. And I've never known him to be somebody that was like a super hard worker. So I said, man, if he can do it, I can do it. No problem. So I said, what school did you go to? I took the course, and that really changed my life because a lot of things happened while I was in the classroom there.
so? Look, you know what? Let's segue right into real estate. I mean, that's obvious. It seems as though that's your big bread and butter business. That's your core business. You've done. You've been tremendously successful, and growing at an alarming rate. And you know, what was it about real estate that you said, you know, this is it?
Well, a lot of things. One, while I was in that course, the course was $175. It was a 1 week course. It was get your license in 1 week. And the instructor was raving about how much money you could make in real estate, how you can be a top salesperson, how you can get into construction and buy real estate. You can be an investor. You can be a broker and start your own company. So I raised my hand. I said, well, wait a minute, sir. If real estate's so hot, then why aren't you doing it? You know? And he said, well, I'm going to talk to you after class. I said, okay, no problem. So after class came and he said, you know, Anthony, I actually own this real estate school. And that's how I make my living. And I did the math really quickly because there were 75 people in the class. The class was $175. He has classes day and night, 365 days of the year. He was making about $1.3 million a year. And I said, sir, I'm going to pay attention to you from now on. No problem. You have my undivided. And that was it. I said, man, here's this guy making over $1 million a year in real estate education. And I said, I'm going to do that and more. I said, one day I'm going to start my own real estate school. But before I do that, I'm going to pass the state exam, learn all the ins and outs of selling. But while I'm out there selling and renting real estate, I'm going to rub elbows with some of these landlords and building owners and ask them how they did it. You know, people often talk about mentors. I had 300 mentors because it wasn't a single person that I would come across that if I was impressed with what they had going on, I would ask them. I would literally interview them and ask them questions on how they did it and who their contacts were. And I was just networking within my own infrastructure. And lo and behold, I eventually started my own real estate company. First, I worked for a real estate firm, became a top salesperson there, left there, worked for another real estate firm, kind of got burnt and didn't get paid commissions, but that forced me into starting my own company and buying real estate. I bought my first property at 21, and now I'm up to 15 properties. I started my real estate school 8 years ago, and then I gave it to my parents. Being that my dad was a retired school teacher, I said, Dad, here's my gift to you. You run it. It's your school. And then I started my own construction company because I found it to be cheaper. If I renovated my own places, I could cut costs. So when I would buy a building, I would use my own team to renovate it. And then eventually my real estate school grew, and then my real estate company, Rapid Realty, grew. I started that also when I was 21 in the first property that I bought. So it just kind of snowballed.
What's your 5-year plan right now with Rapid Realty? And if you want to share any other projects you're working on, even if they're outside of Rapid Realty, we'd love to hear about them as well.
Well, great. I'm glad you asked that. Well, we have several different things cooking in the burner and in the oven. First off, we grew from one location to 60 locations over the course of 30 months. And we grew during a recession. We took advantage of a soft commercial market. We were able to negotiate fantastic leases, asking landlords for 25 and 30% discounts on the asking rent price, getting 3 to 5 months concession. And in some cases, we had the owners actually participate in the build-out costs, so we saved a lot of money there. And in that process, some of the landlords of some of the properties actually were interested in the concept and invested in the concept themselves and bought franchises and started growing. So as a franchise company, we're very, very proud of what we've achieved so far because the franchising industry is very interesting. When you become a franchisor, the first thing you're looking for is proof of concept because you can run, for example, a great restaurant, but can you teach a total stranger that's never been in the restaurant business to be as good as you because it took you 10 years? And we did that. We opened up a test pilot store. It did phenomenal. And 6 months into it, a bunch of people started investing into franchises and wanting to grow. So once that happened, and they actually made a return on their investment. And we've had like a good, like 60% of our franchise owners made their money back within their first year. And then when they make their money back, you're kind of like holding your breath, seeing, are they going to open up another franchise? Because if they do, that means they really love it. So lo and behold, they opened up other franchises, 2 locations, 3 locations. At this point, I have franchisees that own more Rapid Realties than I ever had in my lifetime. It's a great feeling. So what happens at that point is once you have people like that, you want to create an advisory council. You know, they know more about the business. They're in the trenches than you do as the founder with an aerial helicopter perspective. So we created an advisory council. And what the advisory council does, it's a group of elite franchisees that understand the business, made a return on their investment, opened up multiple stores, and they actually make the decisions. Like in McDonald's, it was an advisory council board that invented the breakfast menu. They didn't have breakfast for 15 years. Another advisory council member invented the chicken McNugget, and on and on and on. So some of the best ideas that are coming into the company are coming from people that are actually running and are the blood, sweat, and tears of the organization. So what I did was I turned it up a notch. What I did was I said I knighted everyone that was on the advisory council as area developers. And what that means in the franchise industry is they have the rights to sell a Rapid Realty or give the opportunity to someone else, and they have a participation interest in the franchise fee and in the royalty. But what the person gets is they get them tied into that location. So if they present an opportunity to you, they are your go-to support person. So you have a person that opened up multiple stores, made all their money back. Now this is your go-to support person. And your office has to make money because that's the only way they're going to make money. So it's kind of like guaranteed perpetual growth. And there's huge scalability for our company right now, especially since our proof of concept is already been established. We practiced an anonymity approach to our growth strategy. We really didn't publicize it much. And it wasn't until about 10 months ago that we started unveiling and doing the media thing. So we've been in the media in the public eye 7 to 8 times a month. We're in any real estate related trade publication and any notable publication, and it's been fantastic. You know, people, the phones don't stop ringing. Our area developers are so busy doing trade shows, radio shows. We have a franchise bus tour that we do every couple months now, and the bus is packed with people, and it's like 60% of the people that are on the bus do franchises and are in franchise deals with us. So it's amazing. So right now we're in between two reality show deals that we're working on. We have some great producers. The producers of House Hunters International actually took us on to do our show, and we have a couple networks that we're about to ink a deal with, and we'll be publicly announcing that. So we anticipate our company to go from 60 stores to 600 stores within the next 2 years with that national television platform, and it's just going to turn into a phenomenon. Also, recently, we've been approached by a lot of private equity companies about going into business with us, maybe taking an equity stake and then positioning us to take our company public. Because if you think about it, there is no go-to source for rentals, and that's our goal. We want to be the Hertz, Avis, and Enterprise of the apartment rental and residential commercial rental industry. We want to be the Toys R Us, the Best Buy. We want to be the household name in rentals, the Home Depot, and there isn't any company out there doing it.
That's a ton of stuff you're involved in. I mean, how do you manage all this stuff day to day?
You know, we have a lot of fun. And you know, I'm very, very open and public about my lifestyle. I have a personal Facebook page that has a huge following. I have a company Facebook page that has over 1.5 million people that look at it. You know, I enjoy what I do. You know, just the other day I'm at the Knicks game, courtside, sitting next to Bruce Ratner and Bloomberg, and you know, I'm high-fiving Jay-Z after he wins. You know, I'm in a restaurant, I'm in a rooftop bar, I'm in a meeting, you know, with network executives. I'm traveling. I'm in Costa Rica. I'm in Argentina. I'm in Brazil. When you love what you do, it's fun. And when you're around people that are like-minded and birds of the same feather fly together, you enjoy their company. So I have a great team, not just on the corporate end, but I have a great group of franchisees that are really committed to growing the brand, growing the company, and they have sweat in the game, and they've proven they really love the brand by actually putting up their life savings and their time.
It's seriously unbelievable what you guys are doing. I mean, just watching you from the sidelines myself, the growth has been unbelievable.
Yeah.
I just want to shift. Yeah.
No, I was saying, because you mentioned what else I have. I have a couple development projects. You know, a lot of people that know me best, I bought a lot of my real estate by the time I was 28 years old. So all those real estate properties were in bad neighborhoods that are now great neighborhoods. They've all, the equity appreciation rate was through the roof. So I own a couple of properties that are now rezoned for development sites. So I own one of the last development sites downtown Brooklyn next to the Manhattan Bridge. So I'm in talks with a couple of developers that we're partnering with to build a huge tower. It's a 300,000 square foot development project. And then I have another property that's on a corner that's also zoned for a boutique hotel. So I'm talking to some hotel chain franchises to do a deal with them there too. So we're kind of getting to that space also.
What else, as far as business or even personal, that you want to share that in your life? As far as, you know, we talked about real estate, we talked about 2 reality TV shows, which is unbelievable. I think, you know, that is going to be tremendous, not only to yourself but to your brand. What else did you want to share as far on the personal side or even the business side?
Well, beyond that, every day is exciting. You know, you wake up and you never know what's going to happen, but whatever it is, it's going to be challenging and it's going to be good, and it's a learning process. So there isn't really anything that it's beyond what we're talking about. I mean, there's tons of other things. We're thinking about starting a private equity company to do some real estate acquisition, but not on the larger scale, on the smaller scale of 3 and 4 family brownstone homes in residential metropolitan areas. So we have that in the back burner. Couple different things.
I guess it's safe to say when you have tremendous momentum and doing a ton of things, you almost attract more and more opportunity to yourself.
Yeah, and it's also perception. If you're always positive and you always can look at the silver lining and how you can turn something around, um, you'll always come up on top. And you just have to be also budget conscious too. Growing during the recession, you have to be careful. We had to downsize a little bit on our overhead, and we took advantage of things like Skype, where before I was paying, almost $4,000 a month on having landline phones. And so it's kind of like you have to kind of wake up and stay in tune with technology too.
So Anthony, we discussed obviously some challenging times for you when you were younger. Obviously, it seems as though you're in like the best time of your life right now. Can you recall any significant breakthrough you had in any area of your life that kind of hit home for you?
Well, 4 years ago, it was the worst time of my life because I had built a successful real estate operation. I had grew my company from 3 people to 10 people, 15, 40, and then eventually 150 people. In the first property that I bought when I was 21, I took the ground floor commercial space, grew the business to the second floor, to the third floor. And then eventually, when we couldn't grow inside the building, we had no choice but to grow outwards. So what ended up happening was that I had been kind of grooming these Michael Jordans, so to speak, throughout the process. And I said, well, I had a group meeting with all my Michael Jordans. I said, look, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to find some spaces. We're going to launch a big campaign, and we're going to have 8 locations in one shot. And I'm going to give each one of you guys a location to run and manage. And we're going to be the biggest thing in town. So they all cheered. They said, yes, we're ready to do it. They gave me handshake commitments. I went out, found the spaces, had leases on my desk, ready to sign. Next thing you know, from one day to the next, they all left me at the same time. And they didn't even leave me together as a group. They left me, individually and to work separately and start their own companies. And what I realized was that they said to themselves, if Anthony believes that I'm ready to run a store, that he's going to put up his own money and his own